Everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Steven. So I want to use this opportunity to appreciate those that are subscribed to my YouTube channel. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. So today what are we going to be building? I want to start a challenge, right? A 30 real world project challenge. So we are going to be building 30 real world project challenge. So it could either be Golang, Python, React, and Tailwind projects, right? So it's going to be based on those 4 programming language, those 4 stacks. So yeah, today what are we going to be building? So this is going to be the out of the 30 real world project challenge that we are starting. So this is going to be the number 1. So how to create an e-wallet system. So I think sometimes last year I have uploaded the demo of this particular project on my channel. So I'm going to drop the demo for this product, for this particular project rather, in the description. So if you want to know what this project is all about, I don't want to be going through it again because since I've already uploaded it on my channel, so I'm just going to drop the link of what this project is all about. If you want to see the demo of how it works, of what this project is all about, you can just click on the link and go and watch the video. So without any further ado, so this project, how to create an e-wallet system, right? So we're going to be using React, we're going to be using Tailwind, and then we're going to be using Golang for the backend, right? So without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is that let's come into our VS Code. Let's create a new window here. So let me make this guy bigger. So we click on open. We want to start from the scratch, so we need to create a new folder. So let's call it e-wallet. Let's call it e-wallet backend, right? So let's call it e-wallet backend. So then let's create this and let's open, right? So yeah, this is the first thing we need to do. So we've created our folder and open it inside VS Code. So we need to create a file. Let's call it main.go, right? And then we need to create another file called .env. So this is where we're going to be saving some of our secret keys and other variables too. So here, let's do package main. So there is one command we need to run. Let's open our terminal here. So I need to cd into that particular folder, e-wallet. So we need to do something here. We need to run go mod init. So let's call it e-wallet backend. So let's just add e here, e-wallet backend. So yeah, so then let's come back into our VS Code. We already have this file here, go mod file here. So the version of the Go I'm using is 1.22.3, right? 1.22.3. So that's the version of the Go I'm using. So inside our main here, we need to do something. Now I'm going to be using 2 Golang packages. I'm going to be using Fiber, right? Fiber v2, the version 2, and then I'm going to be using GORM to query our database. Why Fiber is going to help us to create our APIs, right, to help us to run our server locally. So how do we install these 2 guys? Let's just go and check their documentation. So let's come here, let's just type Fiber go, right? So let's see how we can install it. So this is it, go Fiber. Okay, so let's see how to click on get started. So yeah, so this is what we need to do, go get. So let's just copy this this command here, then let's come to our e-wallet backend. We just need to paste this here and then click on enter. So while we are trying to install this, don't forget I said we are going to need GOM as well. So let's come back here and let's see how we can install. Let's create a new tab, GORM for Go, right? So here, this is it. So this is the command we need to run to. Let me see. Yeah, this. So we're going to be using Postgres as our database. So I'm going to be using Postgres as our database. So if you want to install, we need to install Progress driver. So but let's just install this first. So let's install this GOM first. Let's copy this, and then let's come to our terminal. So this is done already. So we need to install this guy as well. So yeah, so having done that, these two packages, two libraries, we've installed them already. So let's come back to our VS Code. If you want to be sure of this, if these two packages have installed, you can just come to this go.sum. Here you can see fiber, you can see some of the other packages that we need to install that to make the two libraries, the two packages we install to work properly. So these are other packages that comes with them. So if you are familiar with Node.js, right, you will see that this is similar to your package.json, right? You know, where once you install a library in your node, you can go to your package.json and see what is really happening there. You can see now these are all the package that has been installed. Okay, so yeah, this go.mos sounds like a package.json. Why this guy here, this go.sum sounds like your package.json.log. I mean, stuff like that on Node.js. I think there is something like that. So yeah, anyway, so let's come here inside our we want to run this guy locally, right? So that's what we want to do first. We want to run this wants to run it first. So what I'm going to do, just to do func here, then we're going to say main, right? So come here, then we're going to say that the first thing we need to do is to say ports. Okay, so there's one thing that we need to install as well. We need to install go.env, right? But let's just proceed. Let's see if I type it here. Maybe it's going to install it by default for us. Let's say equals to, we need to say go.env. Okay, yes. So I can now come here, just bring my cursor on this guy here to click on quick fix. So it's going to help me to get this particular package here. Let me just click on go get package. So what this package does is that it's going to help us to load every variables we have in our .env files, right? Every keys, I mean every records we have here. So this particular library here is going to help us to load you know, every variables we have there. So it's going to make it accessible to us. So we're just going to say .load, right? Yeah, so going to say .load here. Then let's check if error is equals to null. So we're going to say if okay, if error is equals to null, what we just need to do is just to log. Let's just log out the error. So log.print, then the error. So here now, so we need to want to run this particular application on the ports, right? So let's come here inside our .env file. We can just put a port here, right? And we can say port is equals to, let's run it on ports 7000, right? So you can run it on any port of your choice. So let's run it on port 7000. Then what we need to do here now is that we need to load, I mean we need to access this particular port here inside our .env. So what we just need to do, we're just going to say os, right, get env. So okay, get env. So if we are using this get env, so I don't think we are going to be needing this go.env, right? Since we are using this particular package here. So I think this is a default package that comes with Golang, right, that we can use to get our variables from this particular I mean that can help us to get our, you know, data, our records, what we put in our .env files, right? So okay, once we come here, what we need to do is to get the variable, which is ports. If you come back here, you see we name it ports. So we're trying to access that here. So what we now need to do now is that we need to initiate our fiber. So let's say app is equals to fiber, right, fiber.new, right? So we need to do that here. So you have to, if your VS Code is not doing this auto imports, just always remember that you need to always import so all these packages we are trying to use here, right? So okay, so let me just comment this guy out and let's see if we are going to have access to, maybe we don't need this particular go.env here to load our variables. So now, since we've initiate our fiber here, so one thing we need to do is that we need to check out for cause errors, right? We want to we don't want, anytime the front end is trying to call our the endpoint I'm going to be creating, right? I don't want them to be having the cause errors. So what are we going to do to achieve that? So it's very easy using fiber. We can just say app.use. I hope you know where this app is coming from now. It is the variable, you know, we initiated fiber here and we said, or we use this app variables here to initiate this fiber here. So I'm going to say app, right, dot use, then we are going to say cause here, cause.config, cause.new, sorry, I'm going to say cause.new, then we are going to have cause here dot config. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to say that allow credentials. I want to set allow credentials to true. So you're going to know the reason why we are setting these credentials to true very soon. As we continue in this particular project, in this tutorial, you will understand why we are allowing credentials here and we're setting it to true here. Okay, so let's proceed. So the next thing we now need to do is that we need to say app, okay, dot listen, and then dot listen, the name of the ports, right? So the name of the ports, which is ports here. So that's what we need to do here. So basically what we're just trying to do, this few line of code is just helping us to run our application locally. So let me come to my terminal here now, and then let's say go run main.go. So let's see if application is going to run. So it's saying that allow credentials is set to true and allow origin is set to white, insecure setup. Okay, I think it's trying to tell us that we shouldn't set these credentials, right, in a, where we are setting the cause. It said allow origin is set to wildcard, insecure setup. So let's quickly fix that. Okay, so let's quickly fix that here. So what we just need to do is just to say allow origin. So that is the origins where we want anytime we create our endpoints, right, the origin that we, the domain name, yes, let me just say the domain name now, that we want to be able to make a request, right, to our endpoints. That's what we want to do here. So we're going to say allow origin. Let's say that http then localhost, let's say localhost 3000. So anytime if someone wants to make a request to our endpoints, right, they have to be on this particular domain. If not, they're going to be getting a cause error. So let's say the front end wants to call any of the endpoints I'm going to be creating right now. So it has to be running on port 3000. Without that, they will not be able to make requests, right? So that is why we are getting that complaint of insecure setup. So let's come back here now and try to run again, and let's see if our application is going to start. So you can see our application is able to start, but is not running on the port we specified. So it's not running on the port we specified. So let's see something there. Let me try to comment out this particular guy here. Maybe that's why we are not able to have access to the variables we set. Okay, so let's come here. We need to stop and then let's run again. Then let's see if we are going to get, yes, so we're able to get 7,000. So definitely I'm sorry, I apologize for that. This guy is very important. So this go.env.load is really important that we do this here, right? I thought we just using this is going to help us to have access to our variables, but it doesn't work out that way. So we need this go.env, right, to load every variables that is here. So it's really important. So please take note of this. So now the next thing we need to do, right, since we've been able to run our application successfully. So the next thing we need to do is that we need to connect to the database, right? And I'm going to be using Postgres database, right, for this particular tutorial. So the first thing we need to do here is that we need to come here. Let's create a folder here. Let's call it database. Let's call it database. So inside this particular folder here, let's create a new file. Let's still call it database.go, right? So the package, we call it database here. So what do we need to do here? So I'm going to be using I have a Postgres, let me see, yeah, I have a PG admin for here. So if you are using Mac, right, it's just pretty easy to install. Just go on Google, right, and then you can just type while it's still trying to load, you can just type PG admin 4, right? So it's going to take you to, if you are using Windows, you see, if you are using Mac, you can come here to download as well. Even if you are using Linux as well, they all have different operating system, right, that you can install. So I am going to come here right now. So it's still trying to open the PG admin 4. So let's just wait for it. Okay, so this is our PG admin, right? So we need to create a database, right? That's what we want to do here. So we need to create a database here. So these are some of my databases I've created. So you just have to come here, right? You right click and then you will click on database right here. So let's name this database Ewallet. Let's call it Ewallet System, or let's say Ewallet_DB. So yeah, then we'll come here, we'll click on save. So this is our DB here right now that we've created. So now the next thing we need to do is that we need to go into our .env files here. We need to go into our .env file here, and then we need to set up some DB variable. But before we do that, let's come into our database here, and then let's just write some line of code. Let's try to connect to the DB. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to say variable, then DB, then we use a pointer to GOM, right, .db, right? So then we'll come here, we're going to say function now. So we need to create a function. Let's call it connect. Let's call it connect. Yeah, let's call it connect, or we can call it connect DB. Connect DB. So here now, this is where we are going to be connecting our database. So the first thing we're going to do is that we need to load our variables that is in .env files. So we're going to say, just like what we did in our main go the other time, we're going to say go .env, right, .load. Okay, so if error is equals to nothing here, so let's just log out the error. So we're going to say log.print error. Okay, so then the next we need to do now is that we need to access the variables, right now, our DB name, the DB name we created the last time. Let me just show us something here. I'm not going to be displaying my password here, so I'm going to say the DB, right, we call it DB name. So the name of the DB we created the other time is what? Ewallet, right, _DB. So then the next thing you need to do is just the password to your DB, right? You're going to say DB password. So just remember to put the DB password here, right? So then here we are going to have the DB host, which is local host because we are running it locally. Yeah. So then we are going to have the DB ports. Okay, DB_ports, which is equals to, okay, so the DB port is 5432, Yes, so these are the things we need. We need the DB name, the password, then the DB host, and then the DB port. I think those are the things we need. So yeah, 1 2 3 4. So if I'm correct, then the DB user, yes, the DB user. So in my own case, the DB user is Postgres. That's the name of the DB user, right? So then now let's come back into our disconnect function here. So we need to do something that we need to access those variables. We're going to say DB user is equals to we're going to say os.get env, right? The name of the variable we give it is DB user. Okay, so then we need to come here to say DB pass, which is equals to, so the variable now, so again it is equals to os.getMv. So what's the name? We gave it, the name of the variable is db_password. Alright, so then the DB host, this time I'm going to say DB host, which is equals to os.getMv, right? Call it db_host. So what's the next thing is the DB ports. Okay, so DB ports, I'm going to say os.getMv, which is db_ports. Okay, so then we now have DB user, DB password, DB host. I think the DB name, yep, so that's important. DB name, which is os.getMv, and then db_name. So yeah, this is what we need to do here. So now we need to connect to Postgres right now. So how are we going to do that? How do we connect to our Postgres DB? We're going to say dsn, right? We have this variable here, and then we're going to say fmt, right? fmt.spring_elf, right? So we want to use let's say we have this guy here, host. So what we're trying to do is we want to connect to our database. Then let's use a placeholder here. Yes, this placeholder, right, which stands for strings. User is equals to another placeholder for user. Then we have password, right, is equals to, let's use another placeholder here for the password. Then we now have the DB name. So we call it DB name, which is equals to, use another placeholder here. So we have the ports, which is equals to, let's use another placeholder here, and then we have the SSL mode. So we need to disable this because we are running it locally, so we don't have any SSL, right? So let's disable. We need to disable this. So yeah, the next thing we now need to do now is that we now need to replace all these placeholders we use with the actual values here right now, with the actual variables. So the host here, we call it DB host, right? So the user, right, is what? DB user. Okay, so then the password, we call it DB pass, right? So and then what's the next thing? The DB name, if I'm with correct. Okay, the ports, DB ports. So and then the last one, which is the name, right? So okay, sorry, the port is the last one. So the DB name is supposed to be here. DB name. We shouldn't make that mistake. If not, we'll get error while trying to connect. Okay, so then the next thing we now have to do is that we need to come down here. So we need to make use of the Postgres driver. So let's do something. We're going to say database, right, dots, okay, that is a variable, right? Database, then we have error here. So it's equals to gum, right? Gum dot open. Okay, so I'm going to say Postgres dot open, so progress dot open, and then we put in this DSN here. So you can definitely find all what I'm trying to do here right in their documentation. So it's there. Let me see. This is, let's come back here and search for Go, so that you can see that I'm not just bringing this up. So it's definitely here. Let me show us. To connect to database, connecting to database. So this is for MySQL. If you want to connect to MySQL, just follow this process. So if you want to connect to the Postgres we are trying to connect to, let's see. Okay, see, you see, when you want to connect to Postgres, you see what we are trying to do here. See the host, local host, the user, the password, then the port as well, then the SSS mode. We have to disable it. But if you are going on production, you have to put it to required, right? If you want to host your application on production, right? On the live server. So let's come back here. So we say database, right? Remember one more thing we need to do. So we need to say gum here config. Okay, so then the next thing we now need to do is that we're going to say if error, right, is not equals to no, we're going to say that we need to print, we're going to say log dot print, let's say that unable to connect to database, right? So yeah, then the next thing we now need to do is that, so yeah, we see if error is equals to none, right? Else, so if there is no error, so we want to show something, wants to log something, I'm going to say log dot print, we're going to say database connect successfully. Okay, so connect successfully. So then here, so we now need to say that db is equals to database. Yeah, so that's all we need to do. So now by the time we want to start doing creating our table, like creating our models, then we need to do something auto migrate. At this level we can just say database dot auto migrate here, then here, so every tables we want to be creating that we want to migrate, right? Let's say you want to create a users table, you want to create a customers table, or any table. So once you've created your struct, right, then you can just come here and put that particular struct here. So by the time your database connects, this table is going to be automatically created in your database, right? So we can just do that so that we are going to be very sure that what we are doing is correct here. So let's just come here and create a model. Let's create a new folder. Let's call it model, right? So let's call it model, the name of the folder. So here now, inside this model here now, or let's say models, let's put S here. Okay, so here let's create what's a user model here. So at this point we're going to have a package called models. So what do we need to do now? We need to create a struct. So what we are trying to do is I want to create a users table. So yeah, that's what we're just trying to do. We want to create a users table so that anytime a user sign up on our platform, we want to save their record on this particular table in our database. So how we're going to achieve that? It's just very simple. We just need to create a struct. So we're going to say table type user. So that's the name of the table, right? Is user. That's what the name wants to call the name of the table. So when you come here, you're going to say struct, right? And then you're going to say that I'm going to say the ID here, which is going to be UUID. So UUID dot UUID, right? So should we want to use this UUID here? Hold on, let me see. So did I want to use this UUID here? So avoid confusion. Let me see, UUID. Yeah, this is the one I want to use. Yeah, not that of Google. So this one I want to use. .UUID. So now, come on, I don't need this guy. So UUID UUID. Which one am I looking for? Okay, this guy. So we need to install this guy. So let's just, once you just come here over on this guy here, so then you click on quick fix, then you run, it's going to run go get package, this particular package for us. So let's just do that. So while it's installing, let's just go ahead continue with what we are doing. So this is the type, we want to have an ID table, and the type is going to be UUID.UUID here. So we now have to come here, we're going to say JSON here now, right? So JSON is ID, right? So then here we're going to have a GUM. This guy is going to be our primary key, this ID here. So we need to set it to primary key, primary key. So which other thing do we need? We need created at, created at, right, which is going to be of type time, time.time. Then the JSON should be created at. Okay, so what do we need again? We need updated at. We need updated at. So you can just come here, say time, say type time, and then the JSON, we're going to say that updated. Okay, updated at. And then the next thing we need to do is deleted at. We need that too, which is going to be of type time. Then the JSON as well is going to be deleted at. Okay, so then what are the users record we want to save into this database? Number one is the first name. We want to get their first name, right, which is going to be string, and then the JSON is going to be first name. Okay, so we need their last name as well. Last name, come on, last name, which is string. Okay, so the JSON is going to be last name. Then we need their email, really important. We need their email, which is string as well. So here you can say JSON email. Then we need the password, which is going to be string. Is this string now or of type byte? Because we need to encrypt. Encrypt the password. Okay, so let's say of type bytes, okay, so we need this JSON here, and then we are just going to put dash here, because the reason why we are putting this hyphen here is that we don't want to return this password, right, anytime we want to return the user's record to the front end. So anytime we want to return the user's record, we don't want to return this password. So that's why I'm putting this hyphen here. So take note of that. So yeah, so the next thing we need to do is we want to put referral code there. So because we're going to be generating a referral code for each user when they sign up, so which is going to be of a type string, then JSON here. We call it referral code, referral code. So then we need the referred by, that is who referred this particular user. So referred by, so which is going to be a string, right? So it's going to be the JSON here, we're going to have referred by. Then we need the referred number, that is the person that the code or the person that referred this person. So So let's just say referred number. So we're going to have a string and then JSON here. We're going to have referred number. Okay, it should be small letter here. Okay, so then the next we want to do is that we want to auto generate this UUID, our own unique ID for every user. So because normally if we don't specify this, so if you just put comment and just put GOM here, right? Let's say you just come here and you just say GOM, I think GOM dot, I think is it GOM dot model or something now? Yes, GOM dot model here, right? So if you just do something like this, GOM dot model, so what it implies is that GOM is going to help you to create all this ID created at, you know, this updated at is going to do all of these things by default for you, right? But I don't want that to happen, right? I want to, let me undo. Okay, so I want to create all of these things by myself, the ID, the created at and the likes. I want to generate this ID by myself. So how are we going to do that to generate this UID? So what we need to do is that we need to come here, we're going to say function here, right? We're going to say that the base, which is going to be pointed to user, our user table, this guy here. So and then we're going to say that okay, we're going to say that before creates, I'm going to explain what this is now in a second. So I'm going to say scope, before create scope, then we point to GOM dot db, right? GOM dot db, then I'm going to say error here, which is type error. So what we're trying to do here is that now when we create this table, when we come here now, right, in this auto migrates, when we specify, let's say when we come here that we specify something, let's say model, right, models, we import these models here, see models, so dot user, right, then we put this here. So when, if our database connects successfully, this user table here is going to be created. Now what we're not trying to do is that every time anybody any users is anybody trying to create an account on our platform, we want to always auto generate this UUID for them. So this is before, so before we are now saying that before this record is created, we need to call this particular function here, right? We want to generate ID, then that ID should be what is going to be used in our database. So that's what is before create. That is before this record is created, we need to run this particular line of code here. So just take note of that. So what are we going to do? I'm going to say base.id, right? Base.id. So let's just generate that UUID now. I'm going to say UUID new v4. So let's use new v4, right? So and then we're just going to come here, we're going to say if error is not equals to none. So what do we need to do is that we need to return error. We need to return error because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to return error. So and then we'll come here. What are we going to return? We need to return nothing here. So this base.id, why is it complaining? Okay, it shouldn't be a variable. We are assigning it already because we've already created this base. So if there is an error, we are returning an error, and then here we are returning nothing here. So what this is just trying to do is that we are trying to generate, you see, base.id. So before, that's what I was trying to explain the other time, that before that particular user record is created, we are creating a UUID and then setting it to this base.id, that is the ID of this particular guy here. So it will just create a unique UUID, right, for every users before their record is being created in our database. So having done this now, let's now check if everything is okay. So we are trying to migrate this our users table here, right? So and then we are trying to connect into our database here. So we need to install this driver here. So let's just come here and say quick fix, and then let's install this driver. So once it's done, this error is going to disappear. So let's just wait for that to happen. Okay. Yeah, so the error is gone. So we can now check if everything is okay here. So the error is gone. So we just have to come to our terminal here. Right, so we need to stop this server. Right, and then let's go run this main now. So if everything is okay, we should get database connect successfully response. Okay, so there's one more thing we need to do. So we need to come to our main dots. Yeah, we need to come to our main.go. Right, so we need to say that we need to connect to our database. We need to call that database here. We're going to say database, right, dot connect db. So we need to call that function here. You know, this function we created here, so we need to call it inside our main.go here. So don't forget, you need to do that. So then let's stop this guy again. Then go run main.go. So you see database connect successfully. Now let's go and check our database. So we should be able to see let me make this guy bigger a little. So we should be able to see the table we just created. Now the users table should be under schema. Is it under schema now? Yes, schema. Then we come to table. You see under schema we'll come to table. You see this our users table, so you can even view it here. Click this guy here to view. So you see now that we have our ID with the primary key. You know, we specify it. Then we have created at, updated at. So we have the first name, last name, the password, the referral code. So basically everything is working fine. Basically everything's working fine. So I'm just going to stop this video here. Right, so I think the video is getting too long. So in my next video, what we just have to start doing, that we have to start creating APIs, right? An API to register our user, to log in the user. We'll look at how we can encrypt the user's record using JWT token, right? We save it to cookies, and then we are going to look into all of those things. But in this particular video, we've been able to, number one, to connect to our database using Postgres. We'll be able to run our server as well, right, on port 7000, and then we'll be able to see how you can make use of course, you know, how you can prevent course error in your applications. We look at that as well. So in my next video, we're going to be looking at how we start creating the register APIs, endpoints, the login endpoint, the JWT tokens. So those are the things we're going to look at. So if you really enjoyed this particular video, please, as just a kind of showing of appreciation, just hit the subscribe button, and then don't forget as well, if you have any question or you face any challenges, just let me know, drop it in the comment section. So I'm going to be there to answer your question. And then if you want to follow if you want to follow my podcast, I do release podcast every week. So on Spotify, I'm going to be dropping the link in the description, right? So if you want to follow my podcast, if you want to you know, learn how you can be a better developer, how you can boost your career, those are the things I do share in my podcast. So just click on the link I'm going to be dropping in the description to follow my podcast. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch. See you guys in my next video. Bye for now.